What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm glad you decided to stop by for a few minutes. Today, I want to talk to you guys about my thoughts on the upcoming presidential debate. We've got the biggest contest. I mean, really, it's for all the marbles. We're either going to have a country that's based on the founding principles of this nation, self-governance, liberty, freedom, things like that, right? We're gonna either have a country that's based on that, capitalism, all those great things, or we're gonna go the way that Joe Biden has been taking us for the last 3.5 or 3 3/4 years here of his term, right down the crapper towards Marxism, socialism, communism. Everything they do has a Marxist stank on it. Let's just put it that way. And quite frankly, I'm tired of smelling it every time I try to watch a movie or every time I turn on the TV or the computer, because they're constantly pushing their Marxist agenda. It's really more like a religion than anything else. But let's move forward and talk about what I think is going to happen during this debate. For one thing, it's going to be heavily controlled. CNN, for whatever reason, the Trump administration, the Trump team agreed to let CNN host this thing. So, right off the bat, CNN hates Trump. So they're going to come out with basically the way I see this going is the same way it went in 2020, the same way it went leading up to 2016. They're going to throw hardball questions to Trump only. So I imagine one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to try to rock Trump back on his heels, right? They're going to try to make him come out from a defensive standpoint. And they're going to say, as a convicted felon, Trump, how do you see leading the country into, how do you see creating a good equal justice department for all when you're a convicted felon? They're going to have that on the ready. So I'm sure Trump is probably planning for that and, preparing for that. But rumors have it that Joe Biden has spent the entire week leading up to this debate in debate preparation camp. So the Democrat Party is worried old Sleepy Joe is going to come out and underperform or perform like the doddering old man that he is. And I don't mean that as an insult to all other old people. It's not that, man. But as the leader of the free world, you have to display a certain type of image, an image of strength, right? An image of power. And when the rest of the world, the rest of the nations around the world, they think that, we've got a weak, doddering old man that has dementia leading the country right down the crapper, that's the time for them to, pull out the long knives and attack. So, all that being said, they're going to throw softballs to Joe Biden all night long. And if he even is able to string one sentence together that's coherent enough for the media to run with it, even if it's incoherent slightly, they will make adjustments in post-production and say, oh no, Joe Biden didn't really mess up on that. That was your ears, your lying ears that you can't believe, your lying eyes that you can't believe. We're going to take a little mini detour here. I just thought about this article that I just saw earlier today. The Biden campaign, I guess, or the people that are in the deep state cabinet of Joe Biden, the commie lovers, the Marxist lover people that are up there, they actually put out a piece of propaganda that is blatant today. It's a blatant lie. And basically it was on X or Twitter or whatever you call it, where they showed a picture of, let's say, I think it was Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. Trump had a rally there, and they showed a side-by-side picture of what was alleged to be Joe Biden's rally this year. But as it turns out, it was a lie. It was a doctored picture or a picture from a different time or a different event when Joe Biden actually did draw a larger crowd. And someone exposed the pictures of the actual crowd, and it showed where Joe Biden had to drag out this huge, 1,000-foot long, 100-foot tall curtain to block off the empty stadium seats that they weren't able to fill in the most recent rally. So Biden has so little support that the only people that are supporting him are the propagandists that control the media. CNN is one of the heads of that hydra. That's what I'm trying to say. So Trump is definitely walking into the lion's den. He is walking into a disadvantaged debate from the get-go. Now, typically in the past, Trump has done very well at responding on the fly to this, these false allegations or these things that the media, these traps that the media tries to set with their line of questioning, right? So Trump has always done really good in a normal debate setting of firing back. One of the most famous ones is when Hillary was going on and on about, Donald Trump being in charge of the Department of Justice, and she was worried about that for America and for democracy or whatever. He goes, yeah, because you'd be in jail, or something along those lines. It was one of the most famous quips or, rebuttals on the fly like that. Trump is really good at that. They've taken that away from him. They're going to mute the microphones. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine about this. The only thing Trump is going to have as a defense, if they bother to show a wide pan shot of him and Biden, is Trump doing his faces that he's famous for. Trump will make these faces and they'll be telling enough. He'll make that one face where it's like, he just ate a sour lemon or something, and he'll be shaking his head like, right. He'll make a face when he can't respond because he knows that his words will not be picked up on the microphone. I would argue that even if he yells it will not be picked up, because my wife and I were talking about it. She was like, yeah, they'll just selectively edit that part out so that even Joe Biden's microphone won't be able to pick up Trump's voice. They'll isolate the voices in such a way to where even if someone is screaming over the top of the other one, unless it's Biden and Biden is making a good point, and then they'll accidentally leave his mic on. So that's one of my predictions. They'll be quick to turn Trump's mic off, but a little less, sensitive about turning old Joe's mic off. They might accidentally leave it on. So I think that's possible. I think definitely Trump is walking into a trap, a booby trap that's clearly set for him to try to bring some sort of a credibility back to Joe Biden. They want to make Trump look bad. And the only way that I can see that they're going to do that is they're going to pull up a whole bunch of lies. They're going to bring up the Russia hoax. Russia, Russia, Russia. I'm not going to go into all that. You guys that know and follow the news, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They're going to bring up his impeachments. Anything that looks like it can throw mud on Trump's face, they're going to bring it up, and they're going to be loaded in the questions that these people ask, right? And Biden's questions will all be like, oh, when you were making these great decisions that helped us solve all these problems with the energy crisis, how did you go about doing that? Where did you get the inspiration of that? And then Joe Biden will be left to free reign and talk about how back in Scranton he did this and Corn Pop was a bad dude, right? All of that stuff. And the media will just be sitting there lapping it up going, yeah, Corn Pop was a bad dude. You're right, old Joe. Trump, what do you think? Orange man bad, remember? That's the point. That's what this is. And I'm a little bit surprised that Trump agreed to these terms. I guess we'll see, Friday morning or Thursday night after the debate, whether or not Trump is able to, keep his reputation as the Teflon Don alive and well. Under these circumstances where he's going to be hamstringed, he's going to have one of his best weapons is to be able to fire back and immediately rebut these things or immediately lay out facts disproving what was just said by the Biden administration. But they're taking that away from him. So I'm a little bit worried that they're going to be able to pull off some sort of a weird Joe Biden miracle, and he might actually win this thing. Okay, so hear me out. I know you guys have all seen the videos where he's walking around like this, where he's completely frozen, and Obama had to lead him off the stage. And then 2 or 3 days later, commie Jean-Pierre came out and said it was a cheap fake, and that Fox News and other news agencies were delaying or editing the video in such a way that it made it look like Joe Biden was, had dementia and was lost on stage all the time, when that wasn't the reality. That's what they're claiming. You and I that have watched enough of this stuff, we've seen this over and over, from tripping up the stairs going up into Air Force One to falling down on the stage to wrecking his bicycle. The guy has spent more time on his back from falling down than he has standing up as the president of the United States. And then that's not to mention the guy takes more vacation time than any other president in the history of the United States. Okay? He's clearly got some problems. Of course, his doctor comes out and gives him a blank check, a bill of good health every single time, and says, oh yeah, he's just as fit as a fiddle for an 81-year-old man. We all know it's a lie. He won't take a cognitive test. He won't take, he won't talk to a regular, ordinary doctor, because then the doctor might accidentally tell the truth and let it be known that he's suffering from advanced stages of dementia. So how are they going to get old Sleepy Joe through a 90-minute debate where he's standing on his feet for 90 minutes? For one thing, I'm not sure Joe Biden is capable of standing for 90 minutes. I believe, I'm not 100%, but I believe early on, I heard rumors that the Biden camp was actually trying to have a sit-down debate, and Trump insisted that, no, we stand up. And I heard the other day that Biden won the coin toss. He won the coin toss already. So instead of choosing who does the open or the closing statement, usually that's how it goes in past elections. Usually they choose the order of the closing statement. And usually the person that wants to win will choose to be last. That way your voice is heard last. You have the last word, literally. And Biden didn't choose that. He chose something else. It was really weird. It was that the podium, that he stayed in the same position the entire time or something. I don't know. I couldn't make heads or tails out of it, but it was weird. So Trump came out and said, okay, well, I'll choose to go last on the closing argument. So Trump will get the last word. I think they're going to have this broken up into like 30-second or 1-minute responses. So they're not going to have very much time to elaborate on whatever the question, to expound on the issue that was presented by the presenter there, right? So in a way, I think that's going to work at a great disadvantage to Joe Biden. And you have to ask yourself, which Joe Biden are we going to see? Are we going to see the Joe Biden that a lot of people said was amped up on drugs of some kind? The one where he came out and did the ultra MAGA are racist, extremists, and we should put him on the FBI watch list. You know, the one where he was standing in front of the red background and it looked like Hitler-esque, right? I wouldn't dare call the guy or compare the guy to Hitler, but it looked like something that, Adolf Hitler would have approved. It was meant to be that way. And they came out and they said, oh yeah, Dark Brandon is here now and all this. So they're trying to incorporate the title of Brandon, even though Brandon was short for fuck Joe Biden. Okay? I mean, this is how I was thinking about this, how Orwellian everything that the Biden administration does. It's just so in your face that, I mean, it's like their playbook is 1984 or something like that. Or, what's the other one? I can't remember the name of it, but the other one that was about the same era, where it was like a perfect utopia and all this. So anyway, that's what's going on. That's what I think is going to happen. Who's going to win the debate? I mean, it's up in the air. I tend to think Trump is going to win, even with the deck stacked against him like this, because Trump typically does pretty well under fire. And he has, I think, a sharp mind. I think Trump is still sharp. He's not suffering from any dementia or anything like that, or any memory loss, as far as I know, any more than any normal. I think he's 78 years old, so he's not exactly a spring chicken, but he's better and sharper, definitely, than Biden. And unfortunately, instead of being able to use a lot of Trump's natural wit, I think that's going to be squashed in this debate because of the microphones being muted. So that's a little bit unfortunate. And another thing I heard that's a little unusual is they're actually having 2 debates only. In the past, I think every other presidential election, at least in modern history, there have been 3 debates. So their confidence in Joe Biden and his ability to perform on the debate stage is very, very low. Now, I've heard a lot of talk that the Democrats are actually setting the Biden administration up for failure, in that they're not going to ask softball questions. They're going to hit with some hard stuff, and Joe Biden is not going to be able to answer them, or he's going to revert to the whispering real quiet, yelling real loud thing that he does, and getting angry at people for asking questions that so far he's been protected and sheltered from having to answer. Okay? So Joe could be set up by the Democrat Party. If they're really wanting to get rid of him and Kamala at the same time, this is probably the only way. Embarrass him on on the national stage like this, and then come out suddenly and just like Monday morning after the debates and stuff, the news media will all come out and they'll be against Joe Biden. They'll be like, oh my God, we didn't know he had dementia this bad. Yeah, a lot of these Republicans have been saying this for the last 3.5 years, but we didn't believe them. We just thought it was all Trump propaganda. But we saw it the other night. We saw the guy, getting lost in front of a podium. He had one job. All he had to do was stand there in front of the podium, and yet he started walking around on the stage like this and getting lost and had to be corralled back to the podium. If that happens, that means the Democrat Party has completely turned on the Biden camp and everybody connected with him directly. It doesn't mean they've turned on Obama, the shadow president that's actually pulling Biden's strings. No. It means Obama has given up on Biden. And if that happens, they've got a couple of choices. Gavin Newsom is probably the most logical choice, or Michelle Obama. They've probably got both of them in standby. And it was recently brought to my attention that up until the last day, the last 5 minutes before the president is sworn in or before the election is decided, you can back out. So Joe Biden might bow out. He might have to. He might be forced to bow out after this debate. So guys, the reason I'm making a video about this and the reason I think it's such a big deal is because this is critical to the survival of our nation, okay? We've got two visions here, the left and the right. And I don't agree 100% with either one of them, at least in their current configuration. I'm a traditional constitutional conservative, okay? I believe in strict constructionalism, where the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, means what it says what it means. It's not a living document. It's not open to interpretation. You can amend that Constitution through the legal process, but no one ever wants to do that. They all want to work around it. On both sides, okay? I've seen the Republicans doing it on a lesser scale. So, at least in my opinion, as it stands right now, the Republican Party, which barely recognizes Donald Trump in their group, don't really want Donald Trump or the MAGA people in their club, especially the people that are the old school rhinos and the neocons and people like that, the pro-war people. They don't want Trump, right? So a very weird division is going on right now in the country. I think a lot of people, even on the left, are realizing that the left has just turned up crazy town to like level 11. Okay, they've gone too far on too many of these issues, and they're losing people in their own party. They're freaking out that they're losing the male black vote. They're freaking out that they're losing the Latino vote. It's mostly, the left is mostly supported by liberal, single, white women. And other groups, it's not just whites. The black women, they strongly support Democrat policies and things like that. It's because they've made the Democrat Party their daddy or their sugar daddy or their, husband or whatever role you can imagine that the patriarchy would have taken care of in the past. That's no good anymore. They have to get it directly from the taxpayer, from the government. So that's what this is all about. I mean, even I heard an alarming statistic that if you're on the Biden side of things, you should be shocked by this. Even amongst people who are college educated and owe money for their education, and Biden is offering to pay that off, even amongst those people, the support is at an all-time low. So he's not even able to bribe people into voting for him anymore. The truth is coming out. The emperor has no clothes. I don't believe he got 81 million votes back in 2020, okay? You'll never be able to convince me of that. Not real votes. He might have got, okay, let's put it this way. He probably got 81 million votes, but there weren't 81 million bodies behind those votes. Many of them were dead. Many of them were illegal. And we're going to see a repeat of that same play. That same playbook is coming out in 2024. I'm worried they're going to try to start a race war 2.0 like another Summer of Love type thing, or get us so involved with World War III that it's all out, full-scale invasion of the USA. I mean, by, enemy forces, right? They don't have very many plays left. So if they want to hold power, this is their last chance of doing it in a legitimate sort of way. And Biden is going to have to be a strong debater. I'm about to close out here, and I almost forgot one of the most important things, one of the most important questions I want to ask the audience here today. Those of you that are still listening and thinking the same way that I am or close to it, what kind of drugs do you think they're going to put Joe Biden on? Performance-enhancing drugs that are going to bring him out of that, lost, doddering old man phase and be able to perform. I think they drugged him up that day that they brought him out before, and a couple of other times. I think there's signs that depending on which Biden shows up is going to determine how the debate is handled, right? And I don't know, man. I mean, there are some people out there that you could slap them in the face with the reality of a wet fish, and they'll deny it, and they'll say there's no wet fish there. That wasn't a wet fish, that was your hand. You did that. No, it was the fish. But they won't believe it. They won't believe what they're seeing and hearing with their own eyes. They'll believe whatever the propaganda has instructed them to believe. So there are some people that are just lost, is my point. And there's no matter what happens, no matter how badly Biden comes out, and he could literally fall down 3 times on the stage, and there are still people out there that will vote for him and tell themselves that he's actually better for America. I don't know how they sleep at night. I don't know how they could, live in this country and call themselves Americans. But you better believe it. They'll be out there in droves celebrating the 4th of July coming up pretty soon. Not for the right reasons, but because it's a day off work and they get to go out and drink beer and act a fool and stuff like that and watch fireworks, right? Right? That's what it's all about, right? It's not about liberty and patriotism and the time we declared independence. No, it's not about any of that. It's about going out and getting drunk and being stupid. So I have a harder and harder time every year celebrating the 4th of July. I'm like, at a certain point, I'm like, am I celebrating this in irony? Because we're not looking very free anymore when you compare things to the way they used to be. But anyway, I think that's enough for today's video. I look forward to reading your comments. Let me know what you think. Am I totally wrong about all this? Is Trump going to come out and dominate even though the odds are stacked against him? He may be able to. Is Biden going to come out and put on an epic performance because they put him on just the right cocktail of like Adderall and methamphetamines and cocaine or whatever it is? Let me ask you one last question. Were we wrong about that hidden cocaine that they found at the White House? Was that actually Joe Biden's cocaine? We all thought it was Hunter's because he's the obvious, caught literally with cocaine on his nose. But no, maybe it was Joe Biden's cocaine or his special blend of debate performance stuff. Trump's asking for a drug test, and he volunteered to take one himself. But Biden is not going to do it because he's on drugs. Okay? So let me know what you guys think about what's coming up. I'm excited about it. I'm going to be sitting there with my popcorn and cold beverage, and I'm going to be ready for whatever comes. Because, as always, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.